I cannot believe I almost just filmed this entire video without my microphone turned on. I'm great at this whole thing. Hey guys, today we're gonna be talking about Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, and I am so happy I am book talking a Cassandra Clare book, because when I read the Mortal Instruments series, I wasn't on YouTube yet. And when I read the Infernal Devices series, I was on YouTube, but I wasn't doing book talks or anything yet, so here I am, book talking Lady Midnight. If you have no idea what Lady Midnight is, I don't know where you've been, but it's part of the Cassandra Clare Shadowhunters universe, and I highly recommend getting into it. There's the Infernal Devices series, there's the Mortal Instruments series, there's the Bane Chronicles, and there's Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Do you need to read all of those in order to read this one? I mean, technically no, but it is such a better story if you get all these little references and characters come in that you would recognize from the previous series, and it's just so much better if you read. If you have read the two other series and you have not read Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy,
you need to read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy.
Because there's a thing that happens in this book that is brought up in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, and it's crazy, and you need to know about it. This book follows Emma Carstairs, and her parents are dead, and her Parabatai's parents are dead, so it's just big sad party already. But Emma's parents died in a really weird way, and everyone is telling her that it was this villain from the previous series that killed her parents, but she knows that it's not. And then all these other deaths start popping up that are very similar to her parents' death. She and the Blackthorn family go and try to solve these murders, because that would solve her parents' murder. And she wants to know about her parents' death. So if you haven't read Lady Midnight yet, I'm sorry, but you must leave. Go read all the other books, because it's so good. And I have so much to say, so I want you to hear what I have to say. Go, you know what you need to do. Go do it, okay, bye. All I have to say is I called it. I called so many things in this freaking book, which doesn't mean that it's like a predictable book. Obviously, this book was far from predictable, but I predicted so many things, and I'm like, I wrote this book, didn't I? No, one thing I predicted was Kit being the Lost Herondale. I don't know why I thought he was, but he was introduced in the prologue, and we didn't see, like, any of him later. I understood why Johnny was important, because Johnny was, like, giving information to everyone and, like, all that stuff, but I couldn't understand why Kit was so important. Like, why was he being hidden? Why do we get, like, that prologue that, like, focuses on him and not Johnny? Didn't understand, and I'm like, well, like, maybe he's the Lost Herondale. Christopher Jonathan is his name. Christopher Jonathan Herondale. Another thing that I predicted was Alec and Magnus adopting another kid, Raphael. I think that's so sweet that they named him Raphael Santiago. My friend Akaya finished the book like a day ahead of me, and we were just talking about it, and she was being kind of cryptic. I was like, well, maybe Magnus and Alec, like, adopt another kid. Like, I was joking. I was right. I'm always right when I'm joking. I'm like Ron Weasley. If I say something jokingly, part of it probably happens. My friend Akaya that I was talking about, she predicted the Parabatai curse. What if the reason Parabatai can't be together is because they become too powerful when they fall in love? That's a great theory. I wish that's what it is. That'd be cool. And that's what happened. I also predicted that Izzy and Simon were gonna get married. Obviously, I predicted that. I mean, who wouldn't predict Sizzy getting married? But me and my sister, we always would, like, predict what the weddings would look like. We, like, have come up with the color scheme of each wedding, like Magnus and Alec, blue and silver, because, I mean, blue is just their color. It's just their color. And Simon and Izzy is probably gonna be, like, red and white, or something like the red roses. Maybe red and gold, because gold is like the wedding color. And Clace is gonna be green and gold. And when I read that Jace loves Clary in green, I was like, am I wrong about anything in this series? Am I wrong about anything? So Emma has always thought that her parents' death was weird. And I did too. It was weird. What's up with all the markings? Turned out it was Malcolm Fade. And because of Magnus, and because of Tessa, and because of Katarina, and even because of Ragnar, we all think warlocks are, like, nice and helpful and they're cool. I mean, sure, Ragnar's kind of grumpy, but he's still a decent human being, or a decent warlock. And Magnus was friends with Malcolm. Like, he's a mutual friend. He hangs out with the Blackthorns, watches chick flicks with them, and, like, holds Tavi on his lap. And I was with Ty. I was so with Ty at that end. It said something like how Ty could understand pretending, he could understand lies, but he couldn't understand the amount of betrayal that was happening right then. He was like giving relationship advice to Julian. He knew that Arthur was kind of a little not okay in the head. He knew all this stuff and he seemed to care so much, and Emma asked him if he had cared about the Blackthorn kids, and he said that even when it seemed like he loved them, he hated them, and I hated that. I hated it. Malcolm wanted to resurrect Annabelle because he was in love with her, and I kind of predicted that. I didn't predict Malcolm, obviously, but I predicted that once it was revealed that the killings was for necromancy, I was like, well, the necromancer is probably just trying to revive someone that he or she loves. And I was so confused after I read the epilogue because Annabelle was awake, but Tavi didn't die. And then I was like, of course, Annabelle is awake because the spell only called for Blackthorn blood. It didn't call for a Blackthorn life. It didn't call for a Blackthorn infant. It called for blood. They're shadow hunters. They bleed all the time. I'm sure that when Mark was in charge and the kitchen was exploding, that one of the Blackthorn kids cut themselves on something. Just wipe it up on a napkin and then go revive your dead girlfriend. Malcolm, are we on the same page here? You didn't need to kill a kid, alright? I don't think Malcolm's dead. He's a warlock and we threw him into the ocean. He's probably not dead. When we assumed that someone was dead last time, he was alive. Remember City of Glass? We thought he was dead. Was he dead?
No, he was not dead. He's not dead.
Let's go back to the investigation. The Fae come to bargain with Mark. They want to figure out what these deaths are happening about, and when they find the killer, they want them to give him to the Fae, so they can have like a fairy trial or something. That whole, the whole like 50 pages, including that exchange, just hurt me so much because Mark wouldn't let Julian put any Eratzis on him or like do any runes, and Mark thought that Julian was his father, and like they all looked so much older than he remembered because time doesn't work the same way in fairy. Something I did not foresee was Kieran and Mark. Didn't predict it. I'm gonna talk about it right now as like before the incident and after the incident. Let's talk about before the incident for a second. So before the incident, I thought that they were perfect for each other because they both came from such similar backgrounds. They were both cast away by their people and thrown into the Wild Hunt, and they were both maliciously bullied in the Wild Hunt. Bullied is like a light word for what had happened to them, but they found peace with one another. I was very scared that Mark was gonna go back to the Wild Hunt for Kieran, but I also sort of knew that he wouldn't do that. Kind of conflicted, and then I wasn't conflicted because the incident happened. The whipping happened. Alright, let's talk about that scene for a second, alright? I'm gonna be the devil's advocate for a second. I do see how Kieran thought that that was his only option. He was so afraid that Mark was gonna leave him, that Mark wasn't gonna come back to the Wild Hunt for him. Like, it was wrong, but he wanted to take it into his own hands, so Mark would have to come back to him. So Gwyn and I need to just give him a name. I don't even remember how it was spelled. So Gwyn, the mean fairy, and Kieran were trotting up on their horses. The punishment for Mark was not to take him back to the Wild Hunt. It was to give him 20 lashes on a silver whip. Fun thing. So Julian comes up and is like, hey, let me take it, alright? Alright? And I understood that. That made sense because Julian could heal himself, while Mark couldn't because he still didn't want to have any runes. I was chill with that. And then Emma started feeling the lashes, and I was like, oh no, you're gonna do it, aren't you? And then she does it. She goes up and she's like, no, let me do it. Let me take the lashes, okay? But first she like runes Julian so he passes out. I mean, like, okay. She takes the lashes, and it was just, this scene took so long to happen. I was just like, somebody take the freaking lashes. So now let's go back to the investigation again. Julian gets shot at one point by what we later find out is Perfect Diego. This takes us to the car scene, one of my favorite scenes in the entire book. This was my first red flag to where something weird was going on with the Parabatai bond. She keeps putting Eratzis on him and it keeps failing, and I'm like, okay, this is bad. And then Malcolm comes later and says, yeah, that arrow was laced with belladonna. You should be dead. You should not be alive. And when I heard belladonna, I thought of Throne of Glass, just whatever. My other favorite scene was the dancing scene. Like, right before the lottery happened, I loved that. That was the closest that they had ever gotten. There were so many almost times. There were so many almost kisses and almost confessions. And I'm just like, oh my god, just kiss, just do it. Relieve me of this misery. But in the lottery, they thought that they had to protect Sterling instead of protect the people from Sterling. And Diego, like, sets them straight later and they're like, we messed up. I haven't talked about Christina yet. I love her so much and I shipped her with Mark. I'm afraid that Mark won't be able to give Christina what she deserves because Christina has had a hard time. Fairy love is different from human love, and like Mark gave his heart to Kieran and that's a huge thing and he's hurt and he's angry, but like love doesn't just end because you're mad at someone. Like they broke it off, but it's gonna take time for Mark to heal from that. Like Christina deserves someone who is willing to jump in with her fully, and I hope we meet someone that will make Christina happy in the next book. I'm okay if that's Diego. If Diego can prove himself that he's really truly there for Christina, I am 100% down for that. Speaking of Diego, we're introduced to this whole other branch of shadow hunting called the Charlements, which I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly, but it's a book. Fight me about it. It's basically shadow hunting, but level up in badassery. And little Ty wants to be in the Charlements. And that's the main reason that he's not becoming parabatai with Livy. I don't know, like I want him to do what he wants to do, but at the same time, I don't want him to like get eaten alive in there. Going back to the investigation yet again, Emma goes to the convergence by herself because she's an idiot and she does that. And then she starts to drown, right? And this was red flag number 2, number dose. Julian started drowning. That is more than just a strong connection with your parabatai. Like, oh, you're in trouble. I feel it. I must go and help. No. Julian was coughing up water. That is not normal for parabatai. That's like if you die, I die. That's like one person in 2 bodies. It's like they're connected, man. They're connected. Then he pulled her out of the water. And that's when they had sex on the beach. You're parabatai. This is against the law. Like, why are you showing such a public display of affection on a beach? Like, sure, it's a deserted beach, but anyone can walk up. And anyone did walk up. Malcolm walked up. Malcolm saw you on the beach asleep in each other's arms. Why did they let themselves fall asleep? What if Diana had come looking for them? So after all the crap happens, Julian told Mark and Emma about what has really happened at the Institute this whole time, and like it's predictable. I mean, that Arthur is kind of mentally unstable and Julian had taken over for him basically. He was 12 and he took over the Institute and had to pretend that Arthur was okay. I kind of want to talk about Arthur for a second though. I think that he might be a little bit psychic. It was very close to the beginning. They were talking to Arthur and Arthur said, "You're a nice boy, but it won't help you in the end." And the way he did it, it wasn't just like, "Oh, Julian, you nice boy, it won't help you in the end. No, let's continue talking about what I'm talking about." No, it was like he was doing his thing, then he just kind of said it, and then he went back to his thing. It reminded me of Professor Trelawney, because she like had that vision, and she's like, "Sorry, did you say something?" Another just weird thing that happened that I'd like to bring up is Magnus. They're at Malcolm's house, and Magnus is like, "Oh yeah, I remember you guys chilling at Helen and Aline's wedding." And he was like, "That wasn't the last wedding I saw you at." And Julian and Emma were like, "I'm pretty sure it was. There haven't been any weddings since then." And then it says something like Magnus had blamed it on his old age, but he didn't think that was likely. So what's happening with Magnus? I don't understand that. He could have been talking about their parabatai ceremony, but that would have been a weird way to talk about it, so I don't know. Going back to like talking about Arthur and the Institute, why didn't Diana take over? She's got some dark secrets, and I don't like it. I don't know what it's about. She knew, she didn't know, but she had like an idea that Malcolm was the bad guy. If you think that a guy that comes to the Institute often is the bad guy, you are supposed to tell the kids so the kids don't go to the beach and then get kidnapped by said bad guy. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Lack of communication always tears things apart in YA novels. So Kit texts Emma, and we go and we see that Kit is fighting off a demon with the leg of a chair or something. And that at that point, like I already was like, yeah, he's the Lost Herondale. But then when he was fighting, I was like, he's the Lost Herondale. He's a shadow hunter. And then Tessa comes, and I'm like, hey Tessa, what are you doing here? And then Jem comes, and I'm like, And then what they were looking for that whole time was Kit. They were looking for Christopher Jonathan Herondale. I am incredibly excited to see what happens with Kit, because just, he's gonna be so angsty, and he's gonna be so angry, and he's gonna be so uncooperative, and it's gonna be great. And I feel like him and Ty are gonna be friends, not because Kit wants to, but because Ty is just gonna be so persistent. Ty was guarding Kit's door, and I think Julian asked him if he was guarding the Institute from Kit, or Kit from the Institute, and he was just like, what kind of question is that? I don't know. I see a beautiful relationship blooming in the future, and I am excited. Oh, speaking of blooming relationships, let's go to Julian and Emma for a second, shall we? So Emma pulls the classic pretend not to love someone in order to protect them move that is often seen in YA novels. And after that, she goes to Mark. And what does she tell Mark? She tells Mark that they need to fake date in order to make Julian sad. Mark doesn't ask very many questions. Emma just said, yeah, I'm protecting Julian. And he's like, aight. But one question, why we gotta pretend though? This is gonna kind of push Julian off the edge. Julian kind of has a scary side for how much he loves Emma. He has an entire room of paintings of her. The whole thing with Nightshade, like, he just wanted to sell his pizzas. And Julian completely threw him under the bus. I don't know, that was like Arthur's only friend, and I was just so surprised when I read that. I thought that I had read something wrong. I was like, I've got some remaining questions for like the next books. Magnus and Alec, they haven't gotten married. Like, that's kind of weird to me because they explicitly talked about marriage in the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, and Magnus said, I want to marry you, but I don't want to marry you until you can have a Shadowhunter wedding. Like, because back then, warlocks weren't allowed to marry Shadowhunters in traditional Shadowhunter wedding thing. It had to be a downroller ceremony. And then Emma says that it's been 5 years since that law had changed, and Magnus and Alex still aren't married. I don't know, I just think that's weird. Like, maybe there's something else happening, and I don't know what else is happening, but I just think that's weird. Also, on the same vein of marriage, Clary made it seem like she was gonna say no to Jace. Like, she's like, when we get back, I'm gonna have to give him my answer. Why would she say no? She's Clary and Jace. They're like the most famous Shadowhunters in history, which I think is hilarious. I love that they're like famous, and there are like paintings of them, and there's probably like a Jace and Clary section in the museum. And I don't know. I think that's absolutely hysterical. I love it so much. And finally, break the bond. Alright? If that's the only way out of this Parabatai curse nonsense, then break the bond, because apparently on the TV show Shadowhunters, it's easy to break the bond by just using your Parabatai tracking rune or whatever. Sorry, I'm salty about that a little bit. I love the show, but we don't gotta change the world building, alright? We don't gotta, like, change the important stuff. There has to be a way out of the Parabatai rune. There has to be. It says that the whole reason that someone goes crazy is because, like, they start to be able to wield actual magic, and that, like, makes them power hungry and crazy. But, like, are you telling me that, like, no one would be able to handle that? And just, like, what if you don't wield magic like a warlock? What if you just stick to your runes, or maybe even don't even put on runes? There has to be a loophole. Like, there has to be a loophole. There's always a loophole. There's always a loophole. Lesson, kids. Always a loophole. So that's all I have to say. My throat is sore. I've been talking for like an hour, so my voice is fried. And not only that, but I did like a practice run of this. I hope you enjoyed. Tell me your feelings, because I'm eating my feelings right now in chocolate-covered pretzels. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Tell me all your feelings, tell me your predictions, tell me your surprises, your favorite parts. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. So she and her Parabatai and, oh my god. Are you okay? About stuff, and I was like, oh, well maybe excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, Hagrid. It was to protect yourself.